Hello, guys. Welcome. This is the first very exciting episode of the Corite Hangouts, and I'm happy to be here. And I'll soon will be joined by a close friend of mine and a partner named Eddie Matthew. I'm really thrilled to have him here as our first guest on this show. And the concept of Corite Hangout will be us talking to you guys in the community about things that happens on our platform and what we're about to announce, crazy cool project that we just realized or made happen. But primarily in these sessions, we will be about inviting our friends and people around in our community that knows stuff on the next level beyond ourselves in certain areas. And today's guest, Eddie, is a really experienced manager and publisher with a long experience both from the Swedish market, where it's been the last few years, but also from the American market. And I think that is especially exciting because in today's music business, a lot of things are still local, but a lot of creators out there are looking for a career on an international level. And to know the differences and the similarities of different markets and the way to sort of interact with communities and different cultures in different cities and countries is one of the more crucial elements, I would say, to be able to succeed in this highly competitive music market. Because what you can say, coming to today's subject, which is about the challenges that creators facing in today's industry, is that, it's hard not to see all the opportunities that are out there. Today, it's super simple to distribute music. It's fairly easy to buy the equipment to be able to produce music on your own. You can basically do a global hit in your bedroom, and you can pretty much distribute it for free across all nations. But then the challenge starts because everybody can do this. So 100,000 songs are distributed every single day to services like Spotify. So the competition nowadays is probably harder than ever. So what you do make a lot of difference in your potential to become successful as a professional creator, regardless if your ambition is to become an artist or a producer or a writer or whatever's out there. And I think this situation is also what's led us on Corite to do what we are doing, because our purpose is here. We're trying to help artists and creators to cut through the noise. And the tool we want to introduce is the power of the fans. We call our mantra is basically fan power. So what we're trying to do is to use every kind of potential there is, working closer to the people that love your music the most, which are the fans, to help you with all the things that you need to succeed. And it could be solving problems like, how can I get money to my project? It's not that easy if you're struggling. It could be in any stage of your career. Either you need to sort of have some money to buy your first microphone to be able to record your first song. But then coming a bit later on, you might need money to sort of pay a producer or pay for a marketing campaign or something that you really need. And then eventually when you're super famous and a superstar, maybe you realize that you have already built a team around you that could support you all the way. And you don't need too much of the business around you. So you can basically use the people that love your music to raise all funds you need to pursue your career. So this is what Corite's all about. We want to build a platform that on the next level can connect the audience with the creators, to help them with the support of money and funding, but also with marketing and promotion. So this is what we're going to talk about today. I think Eddie will give you a really great perspective on the challenges he sees when he works with primarily producer, but also with his experience from artist management. That's pretty much what my start here. And I see Eddie's just entered the door. On top of this, we will also talk a bit about Web3, because I can't sort of really ignore the fact that on the technology side of the industry, there's a shift going on, which relates a lot to this relation between fans and artists and the community that they can build. When I believe this new technology will be a key to succeed here. So if you manage to understand the possibilities or maybe also the pitfalls to avoid, you will be able to sort of create a ton of new opportunity if you understand it. So, but with no further ado, please let me welcome my friend Eddie.
There we go.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you.
Yeah.
So I heard you were in London like this weekend. What happened?
Yeah. I went out there for some of the Brits events. I didn't go to the Brits, but they had a bunch of parties and just a great networking experience. A lot of people from all over go to the Brits, just like they go to Los Angeles or America for the Grammys. It's the Brits. It's kind of the the Grammy version for the UK. So a lot of people were in town. Had a chance to see a bunch of people and kind of bounce around. It's a good experience.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty. It was kind of your nature because we had a short chat like on Friday morning and say, "Hey, I can't meet today. I need to go to London. It's the Brits."
Yeah.
And like this, the typical way you've been working, like building the networks, collaborating with people, and all around. So maybe you just introduce yourself a bit. See, who are you?
So I own a small publishing company called Lill Raye Music. It's based in Stockholm, Sweden. Grew up in America, worked as an artist manager and a manager of writers and producers and a publisher in America. And then just been living in Sweden now for about 6 years and, just learning and understanding global business. So to have a chance to go to the UK and see not only record executives and colleagues from America and also colleagues from France and Germany, all under the same umbrella at a universal party or at an event during the Brits, it's a chance you can kind of get everybody at the same time and network a little bit.
So I know you're not the guy that normally brags too much, but you have been working with pretty serious people over the years. Could you just give some like background on like the artists or producers you've been like working with?
Worked with a bunch of artists. Some of the writers that I've been blessed to help guide their career. I've worked with the likes of Dua Lipa and Ariana Grande, Little Mix, and a lot of artists. I guess those would probably be the biggest, But yeah, DJ Snake. A lot of artists.
Yeah. You don't have to do that. I know you can probably go on for like 30 minutes just talking about that, but it's like, okay, let's cut to the chase.
Not really a bragger. So
no. I know. That's my fault. That was my fault. So get back to like as a manager today, 2023, in this kind of competitive space we're in. When you're looking at like when you're talking to your people basically that you have in your team that you have signed, and like what would you say what are the main challenges that you're trying to sort of cope with we can start like from a producer perspective like
I think I think a lot is just managing expectations, just trying to guide a young producer, a young writer's career, and just get them to not be don't feel pressured about what else is going on around them and just like kind of focus on kind of running their race. This thing sometimes feels like it could happen overnight. Sometimes it could feel like it happens after 10 years.
So what would you say was the normal case?
Normal case probably takes about 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and it's a lot of focus.
Yeah.
I would say working with writers and producers, you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk on working with artists. I always tell writers and producers, don't look past the new artist. Sometimes the new artist is the best person to build your career with. A lot of the biggest success stories from Louis Bell working with Post Malone or Tommy Brown working with Ariana Grande, in the early stages of their career is what, when you look up to 5 or 8 years, 10 years later, and they're producing a whole album, it makes sense because they've been there since the first album.
Yeah. So would you say like pitching songs to like huge artists, what's the chance of like actually getting there if you don't know them, like when they're already on the top?
I think it's hard, because naturally at that point, they don't really feel an attachment to you or your record. And the record's probably great. It might be better than the record they're actually getting, but they feel more of attachment by saying, hey, this is, excuse me. In certain situations, someone say, hey, I know who this producer is who produced this record. I've known them for years. So I feel more attached to the song that's being presented to me opposed to somebody who's like, I've never met this person before and they've emailed me and a song is sitting in my inbox. Might not have the same feel. So
I think we have probably people watching and and in the community of Corite, we have people from all over the world. And I think there's probably, when I talk to you, you describe like some of the differences culture-wise, if you like an American or like a European or a Swede. What would you say, like, if you compare, like, what are the, pros and cons with the different sort of attitudes that you see if you compare like Americans or Swedes, for instance, like?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of has their place in this music space. You know, I think Americans have been known to be maybe a little more social or a little more braggadocious, I guess. Outside of myself, I've been in Sweden for a while now, so I'm learning to tame the bragging, I think. I might have bragged a lot more in the early stages of my career, but as you build in this career, you realize people have done way more than you, and you'll never do as much as the next person. So it's better for you just to stay as humble as possible. But I think Swedes do have an undertone of being humble, and being in Sweden, I see that. And people are super talented in Sweden. There's a lot of great producers and writers. There's a lot of great executives. And I think selling yourself is really important. And it's a hard balance to find that I want to be great at what I do, but also you need to tell people how great you are at what you do. And I think sometimes Americans are really, really good at selling what they can do, but maybe they're not as good as actually producing out what they can do. So yeah, I think there's a lot of differences, a lot of culture differences when you're dealing with, Germany and the music market in Germany. And you're dealing with the UK, or you're dealing with France or Italy. I think, when you're in that market, it might feel so kind of neutral to how you approach the game. But then once you're trying to break internationally, you kind of got to figure out how to work within how people work in that market. A great saying is, in Rome, you do what the Romans do. So if Americans become more actively on social media, if you're trying to break in America, maybe you might need to be a little more active on social media, or maybe you need to find a way to sell yourself, or find a team that could help sell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why you need sometimes a great manager. If you're a really talented writer or producer, having a great manager that just wants to, tell the whole world about you and brag about you and email about you and send your songs and say these are the best songs that ever been made in life. That sounds like a great manager for somebody who just wants to be in the studio and create music.
Yeah. So what do you say? Like, I like that fact, because I think a lot of people wants to sort of, you say the normal case is basically, if you want to be successful, it takes 10 years. It's a kind of long period, especially if you're like 20 years old getting started, or even 18 or something. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't even imagine the time when you're turning like 30. So, but that's probably the normal case, I would say. Like, if you get this like one over the night success, it always has a history. You've been working like crazy to get to that point, and then all of a sudden it happens. But like, so what you said something smart, I think, in the sense that if you're on like your way up, instead of just trying to sort of hit upwards all the time, trying to sort of look aside of yourself and like maybe a bit down. So finding the talent, working closer to what. So what would you say, like a good strategy for let's say a producer that consider himself professional, but so far it hasn't come to the level where he's actually making a living out of it, but it's like he has the chance of what would be like the main strategy for a girl or a guy like that?
I think there needs to be a balance between how hard everybody works. So if you have a manager that's working as hard as you are in the studio, and you feel that, like, this person's pounding the pavement every day just trying to get my stuff out there, then that sounds like a great manager, Yeah. And then if you see an artist that has talent, and you're like, I want to really put a couple hours a day, or 20 hours a week on this specific artist and his project, and I want to be that artist's main producer or songwriter, I think you have to see the work ethic within that artist for you to take that bet. You have to say, you know what, this person's working as hard as me. I can see they want it, and they're as talented as me, and they look like they're going to make it there with or without me. So maybe I need to jump on this wagon and be a part of the success of this new artist. And if you and another artist can come up together, that's the best time. Because then the whole industry is asking for you guys. They're asking for the sound that you're giving that artist, since the industry's kind of built on that. If Dua Lipa comes with an 80s pop vibe, then the whole industry shifts to an 80s pop vibe for that time period. Whatever the case may be, or some of the biggest artists, whatever the trend is, everybody kind of follows that. So if you could be the producer who sets that trend, the whole industry wants you, and that artist becomes a special artist because you've cultivated such a great sound for that artist. So I would say taking a bet at an early point of your career. Don't look for those. Don't just jump and only take the opportunity to work with those big artists. Kind of look at it as I look at it as kind of like grades, or like what age you're in. We have in America, we have first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, all the way up to 12th grade. So, you got elementary schools like first to fifth grade, and then middle school is like sixth to eighth grade. And then, your high school years like 9 to 12. So it's like if somebody like Ariana Grande, she's probably like in like 10th grade, 11th grade. Yeah. You're like in first grade. So why would you think that you have anything that would make sense for like a 10th grader if you're coming into the business at this stage? So why don't you look for, people who are in your same kind of grade level that are building, so you guys can kind of build together.
Yeah.
Because there's never really going to be like a sense of, I don't want to say loyalty because that's the worst. I don't want to say loyalty, but you're not going to have that same sense of loyalty that somebody has when you guys have been at the same level building together.
No,
for sure. Right.
So I think it's interesting because you talk about these relations, that was an interesting parallel with like the grades. And I think what we experienced when I look at Corite, my background, I was in the music industry for several years working for Universal Music. During the time when Spotify was launching and the streaming basically took over. So the whole CD industry died and streaming took over. But I would say what happened, that the music industry has always been built on like the relation between the people that listens to the music and the people that actually is on the stage. So this energy that comes when a great artist are performing a great song in front of thousands of people, that is like the core of the, I would say, old school music industry. But suddenly, like over the last few years, you've seen more of like when the streaming, there's so much music going on out there, and this playlisting and all things that are happening makes people more not active in their listening. They're just getting overwhelmed over a lot of stuff. And I think the services out there in the industry has been pretty poor in taking care of those very important fan relations. If you, for instance, compare to other industries like social media in general, like the YouTubers build their entire business of the relation with their fans.
Exactly.
It's like they're doing videos like this every single day, and all of a sudden after 5,000 videos they have built an audience with maybe 10,000 people or even less, but these guys are really loyal to what they're doing, so they can make money and they can make business out of that relations, whilst the music artists continues to create great music, but they just drop it out on streaming services and then like lose. I just wanted, if you think that from an artist perspective, building the relations with producers, if we could take that kind of same kind of idea and apply it to people that actually listen to your stuff as well. So have you, and also on the producer side, so question would be, is it important for a producer to build their own brand, to actually have some audience around them that actually knows what they're doing and what they're supposed to sort of, basically building an audience around themselves?
I think, honestly, I just think the new era, the new generations, or the new business model of the music business, it really just doesn't end with recording a song and working with one producer, one artist, or just working in the studio. That's, by building a brand, you can almost sell anything that you're attached to as a brand. As a brand, you can sell, plugins that you develop with like a certain company that's dealing with software, or you can do, different sample packs where you're making sounds and you're distributing this to producers, and giving away certain productions for songwriters to work on, or any type of merchandising. Anybody who has any type of, you have on a Corite hoodie right now, So right now, at the moment, you're not only in the not only Web3 business, crowdfunding business, and tech business, you're also in, merchandising of fashion and clothes.
Yep.
So I think anybody who's building a brand has a chance to take their brand and kind of put it in a lot of different places. So I think as a creative, once you're attached to a superstar, let's say you're now working with the biggest artist in the world, naturally, if you're around that artist all the time, you're going to naturally just build a brand. You know, a good friend of mine, Tommy Brown, who works really close with Ariana Grande, and Taylor Parks, who wrote a lot of songs for Ariana Grande, they naturally have fan bases that are built in. They have their own fan base, but there's a small percentile of that fan base are diehard Ariana fans because of what they've done with Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
So when you're attached to certain artists that have that capability to be worldwide artists, you're going to build a brand naturally. You can't really hide that. So what you do with having that opportunity to be able to touch a huge amount of people and consumers, you can kind of take them anywhere you want. So I think building a brand is really important.
Yeah.
I think it's super important in this new era. I think everybody's in brand building. Managers are building brands. I know managers who have podcasts now. I know publishers who have podcasts, and everybody's just trying to constantly keep the attention on them, and then they can monetize that.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, but I think like looking at the revenues for like an artist or whatever, we can take the artist example. If you're totally independent today and you just drop a song on Spotify, for instance, and other streaming services, let's say you generate 1 million streams a month. That's kind of a lot if you're a small artist, but it's like, and you suppose, and what you will make out of that would be around $3,500 a month, which could probably make you survive to some extent if you don't buy too much. Yeah, but still, that's a kind of to get those streams, you probably need around 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. That's a couple of football stadiums or even more. Mm-hmm. So, but if you're looking at the other angle, if you just could take like 0.2% out of that those people that actually listen to your song, you will get to 1,000 people. So, and if you manage to get a business where you can sell something for $50 each, for these guys, you will have an equivalent of like $5,000 revenues per month. Meaning, if you just manage to take care of the people that actually likes you around you, you will be able to get to a sustainable business pretty fast. Mm-hmm. But that's of course a challenge. But I think that's the sort of mindset you got to have. Even if you're, as I said, if you're a producer, if you manage to get like 100 other producers that like what you do, and then in the end are prepared to buy your plugin, then it probably could help you a lot as well. So it's like whatever you do, you need to take care of the people that love what you do, and I think that's it's a crucial thingy. So, what would you say to a young producer today that had the talent and but no manager so far and no really sort of hits or whatever? What is like how to work it? What's the important things to do?
I'd say obviously you have everything, at your doorstep now. You have YouTube for tutorials to be a better mixer or to produce, or you have places like Splice to have sound packs. You have so many options to kind of, build at least your talents. And then you have social media. So if you see an artist on Instagram or Facebook, and you can reach out to that artist and say, hey, I'm a young producer. I'd love to send you some of my tracks. And that artist likes it. Maybe, that artist, you could be in Sweden. Maybe that artist is in America and they've never been to Sweden before. And, you might have a side job working at a bar, or, I don't know. If you're young, maybe you're saving up some money that your parents are giving you, and maybe you could talk to that artist about flying them over. Maybe your parents might let that artist sleep on the couch, and you say, hey, in my bedroom, I want to work on your album. And that album could become one of the biggest albums in the world, because we don't have manufacturing costs anymore. No. So without manufacturing costs, that means tomorrow you could just hit the whole world when you put that song on the DSPs, on the streaming platforms. And, take that chance, take that risk. Don't put all your eggs in a basket of thinking about the fastest way to get to the goal. Like, a lot of writers and producers do want to work with the biggest artists in the world, but at some point, those biggest artists in the world weren't the biggest artists in the world. So somebody had to take bets on them. So if I'm a young producer, I'm saying keep working on your craft, take bets on young talent, constantly send your music out. And if you have the talent and you have the drive and the work ethic, you're gonna get there.
And to take the other perspective, that if you're this artist that believes that you have something and you're prepared to work hard like crazy, but you really don't have the connections yet. So what is like the main steps from the young artist perspective to do?
Yeah, so many options: Instagram, TikTok. Just keep building your brand. And just literally, when I was coming in, I seen an artist that we're working with named Gabby Sklar, who hasn't put out a song yet, but she has 1 million followers and a lot of TikTok followers by putting some great covers together. And she's like beatboxing the sound and singing the cover, and that just a little bit of pivot from just sitting in front of a mic and singing the cover is enough that's entertaining to kids to say this is just a little different from a cover that I might have seen yesterday. And that little bit of a pivot is probably helping her build a fan base.
Yeah.
And it's genius. So, you don't need the biggest producers and writers. She's now in a position where some of the biggest producers and writers are knocking at her door, but that, those first years, I seen, looking on Instagram too, I seen her manager was like, hey, we were at 7,000 followers for like 10 years or something. He said 5 years. So for them to now hit 1 million, it's like, hard work pays off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your plan then? So like, tell us a bit about your business. What are you doing right now?
Right now, just building out the publishing company and the management company, working with great writers and producers. Obviously, we share a writer, a producer together, right? That's talented, and just constantly just building out the team and just finding ways to constantly work from being in Sweden, trying to do things international, also developing stuff locally, and I'm really excited. I'm just excited for global business. My whole life I spent living in America, where global business felt like just American business.
Yeah.
But then you get this opportunity to see what's going on in Germany and what's going on in France, what's going on in the UK, and what's going on in Korea, parts of Asia, and what's going on in India. And these are things that I feel like I was kind of overshadowed by being in the market where the world kind of wants to be in that market.
Yeah.
The whole world wants to break and be successful in America. And sometimes that could be overshadowing. A lot of my peers that still live in America don't really understand the value of, a big radio hit in Germany, or having a number one on the official charts in the UK, or even just going over to the UK and building great relationships like I did, this past weekend.
Yeah.
So
big question. Looking at the global scene now. So what's if you look at projections where you had your business and what you would expect, like in a 10-year perspective, what are, like, do you think, like, US is obviously still the sort of main market for music, and I would say a big inspiration source for a lot of people, as you say, want to move there to try to make it happen, but the competition is crazy. So what do you see looking at other markets? What's most interesting right now?
I think the one that's starting not to become the sleeper, which I would say is like a saying, is the sleeping giant.
Mm-hmm.
I would obviously have to say Korea right now, with the success of like BTS and this new group, New Jeans, and Blackpink and EXO and all these different groups. There's a group every day, and they've really understood how to monetize the fans that they have, and it's just such a massive uproar coming to the business that it can't really be slept on anymore. No. Some of the biggest writers and producers are now focused on those markets when they never were before. So that's really opening up the doors. And somebody just mentioned a producer and writer today that's like, they're spending a lot of time in Korea, and it's like, wow, I would never think that they would, because they've had so much success in America. So it lets me know that market is massive. I think the way they develop artists is brilliant. It's special. They're still in artist development. The way that they develop these Korean acts and how much time and effort they put in the costumes, the dance, everything.
That's interesting, because I think that's sort of disappeared a bit in both Europe and Europe, because
Absolutely.
People are investing in already, as you said, it's smart to be big in TikTok, because then somebody will invest in you, but it's not in Korea, they basically take kids
Years
pretty
to
early on,
develop,
and they
yeah.
develop them
Mhm.
for years, which by nature will make them pretty good, I guess.
Yeah,
At some
absolutely.
point when they actually break,
Absolutely.
they have something. So would you say that's a trend that might come back a bit? Like,
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so, because I think we're behind on it, because you could see it from the fan engagement.
Mhm.
We're trying to figure out why a fan in Korea will buy 7 CDs to get, a poster of their favorite artist, but it's like, you kind of understand why when it's like these artists are so developed. They know how to look in the camera to make that young, kid fall in love. Like they got it. And it's something that we had for years. Like, they did it with Britney, and they did it with the Backstreet Boys, and they did it with so many. Sierra as a young act. Acts, TLC, these people, like these acts that were just developed and developed and developed to be ready to go sell millions and millions of records. And I think we kind of lost that. But I do think it's coming back. I think there's some production companies, managements, publishing companies that's looking and saying, hey, we need to take a bet on some things long term. And I think it's happening. So I'm excited for Korea. I'm excited for the UK. I feel like with Dua Lipa now coming out of the UK, that opens up a lot of eyes. I think they have a young rap talent named Central C that's starting to really expand globally, and they got a R&B group called Flow it's really exciting too. And all those things I think have international potential and global potential. So if more things can come out of the UK, then I don't have to take as many 11-hour flights. So I'm hoping to not have to keep traveling back and forth to Los Angeles, is where most of the hub of writers, producers, and artists live at. So,
yeah. Thanks a lot, Eddie. I think we're soon to wrap this one up.
Nice.
Just one final thing, because when it comes to this very highly competitive game of music, regardless you're an artist or a producer, funding is always a problem, because at some stage you need more money to do whatever you want to do. If it is buying new equipment or flying to the US for a media artist or whatever have you. And traditionally, that's from our experience, there's kind of not too many options. It's either you go and sign yourself to a publisher or get that deal, which is kind of tough because they're looking for certain things, or you're going to a record label and try to get signed, which is even tougher right now because they basically only look at your socials or whatever happened before.
Exactly.
And that's why I think this Web3 technology is actually open up, because the first wave of technology was like production. Everybody could produce on their laptops, and then came the distribution. So everybody could basically reach the whole world just by putting it up on Spotify and other services. But now comes the technology that enables these fan bases to be part of the project. So you basically can buy yourselves into something that you believe in early stage, and then follow the journey and sort of make success together with artists. And so that's basically what we're trying to do now, is to help both artists at early stage, but artists on every stage, but also producers that needs funding, and using the power of the fans out there to get that done. Have you seen any kind of basically what are the needs if you're like a producer or an artist on the level that you guys work with, which is like it's not like the ground floor level, it's basically one step up. So what are the kind of funding needs, would you say, for a business like yourself to sort of, or the producers around you to get the next?
Well, I think naturally, depending on if you plan to travel a lot to work with a lot of international artists, that can cost, hotel costs or Airbnb costs or flight costs. And like you said, there are some new models, not only for artists, like you said, for producers and writers. You guys are working on a model for NFT and development in Web3. Another block, and those guys they got NFT and Web3, and there was a big one in the US. I can't think of the name. Yeah, same thing. But those things become just another revenue to where that's going to help keep fueling the career until you get to that opportunity where maybe you don't need as much finance. Like a publishing deal comes with finance for the most part, depending on what it is, just like a record label comes with finance. And a lot of these are just really for you to fully be able to focus on
Yeah.
doing what you want to do. That's like the undertone of it, because obviously for the most part, they still become advances, and you know what I mean, it's kind of still your money. You're just kind of getting it in a certain amount of time. You're getting it in a lump sum.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, but when you said you talked about like the Korean market, how they actually invest a lot in development,
Yeah.
while like in our markets right now, currently that's pretty much not the case. I guess I think from my standpoint, I believe that this is the opportunity, because if you can use the fan bases around you, regardless if they're 1,000 people or 500,000 people, maybe you can use that to actually get the funds to be able to develop, or both on your own. Like, let's say you're this producer, you find this great talented artist early stage, like somewhere in Arizona, so you want to go there and you want to spend like 4 months. That will cost a lot. So and if you're like independent, you need somebody to believe in that. So maybe you can gather the community around you and sort of make yourself able to go there, basically. Or if you had a couple of successes before, you can use that success and package it up and fundraise based on whatever you have done before to be able to afford to do the next big thing, like, and take yourself to the next level. Exactly. So I think these are the opportunities. I believe even the competition is crazy out there. There's so much to do if you're on the case. And to your point, you need to work hard. Everybody needs to work hard, and it probably take you 10 years. So I don't think Web3 will take you faster forward, but it will definitely open up new opportunities for people that are creative and knows how to sort of handle things.
I think it all kind of falls back to fan, right? It's all really fan club, right? It's like if I'm your publisher and I want to sign you, I'm a fan of your music. So I'm still like a fan. I might be one fan, or you can have, thousands of fans and millions of fans like an artist, or these days like a producer. Like, there are producers who have fans. There are, in the likes of DJ Mustard or Metro Boomin. Like these are people who have London on the Track. They have fan bases. Tommy Brown. These are people who have people who follow them as fans. When they post, they get thousands and thousands of likes. So I think it goes back to the same thing. It just goes back to that fan club. Like you just need to build that fan club. Back in the 90s, I think that fan club was serious. I think Britney took that fan club serious. I remember they did a whole thing on Selena, sadly enough, because her fan club person, was a part of her tragedy. But, it was a serious job for that person. So I think going back to building fans and taking care of your fans and giving those fans the opportunity, whether that was, signed posters from a Britney Spears or from the Backstreet Boys, we need to go back to that. We need to find a way to really nurture the fan base. And I think the young kids who find a way to nurture their fan base, it's important. And I think some of the biggest artists in the world, I think they wish there was some type of technology that could show, like, hey, regardless of now that you have millions of fans, this first 100, this was the first. These were the ones that liked your pictures first. These are the ones. And I can never see an artist feeling like that's something they should look past. I think every artist would love to know their first 100 believers. You know what I mean? For sure.
I think that was a good final mark, actually. I think thank you so much for coming here. It was a pleasure to having you in the first session.
Thank you.
So good luck with everything you're doing.
For many more of these. I'm going to stay tuned.
Yeah, cool.
I love what you guys are doing over at Corite. I think you guys are really forward thinking and real innovators in the space. And, I think what you guys have been doing for years has been amazing for the culture of the music business.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's call it a day. Thank you all that has been listening. We're being back. I don't know exact date yet, but we'll be posting it in our socials soon. So, and then we'll have some other exciting guests. Thank you. Bye.
Nice wrap up.